Welcome to the C.L.I.M.B. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. This podcast exists because we want you to win, and you're going to need leverage to get ahead. It's going to take more than just your talent. You're going to need to come in with some business, and you need to come in with some cash flow. And as a matter of fact, that's why we called it the C.L.I.M.B, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. What is leverage, you ask? It's a strategic advantage. It's the power to act effectively. We want to help you gain the strategic advantage and the power to make stuff happen. I want to introduce you to my co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter. Brent is an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady Antebellum, Joe Nichols, and more. And what I love about Brent is he helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you can write like a pro, do business like a pro, and not only that, he actually connects you to the pros. And you can find Brent really easily at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns the Daredevil Production. They help you find your sound, and they help you grow your audience so you can become the artist that everybody loves, so you can get paid. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production, singular, no S, and there is no S because there is no other Johnny D.
What's happening, brother?
We got a lot of people looking at us.
We're live at the C.L.I.M.B conference. Hey! Are you having a blast?
This is scary. So we normally do these like I'm in my office at my house with no one around, and you're at your office.
Maybe in his underwear, we don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. And then like, we took it up a notch. We got like, oh, we're actually in the room together. Like done that like 3 times, and now we're in the room with like 50-something other people, and that's just
rock stars. They're rock stars up in Salt Lake City, Utah. So let's talk about what the episode's going to be, and then we'll do a little bit of business. Okay, so drop it on us, man.
By request, we're talking about what would be a good episode for this particular event, right? We want to keep our audience in mind, right? As writers, as artists, we want to think about the listener, right? And so since we're going to be in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah, a lot of people want to make it as artists, want to make it as songwriters. How do you make it from a distance? How do you make it not living in New York, L.A., Nashville, one of the major music centers? So that's what we'll be talking about today, how to make it in music from a distance. That's
right. So before we do that, a couple major announcements. Number one, huge milestone that we saved announcing because we want to share with you guys live. We just eclipsed 100,000 downloads on this podcast. So thank you guys very much for that.
So thank you for everyone that's listening now, that's listening in the future, everyone that help make that happen, because that's just kind of weird.
That's cool.
So, yeah,
that's cool.
That's very cool. So very thankful.
And we've got some
Thank you.
sponsors that help put this whole C.L.I.M.B conference together. And shout out if you've been a recipient of our sponsors' love and benevolence. We want to thank Rode Microphones. Anybody get a free one out there? This is a killer Australian company. Great microphones. They do background recording tours for Kelly Clarkson, Justin Timberlake, Rihanna. I think that's about all you need to know, right? Pro as you can get. Great microphones. We want to thank Rode for helping us out with that. And then a brand new guitar company, to me, I just got introduced to them, and we still have this one to give away, but Teton Guitars. So let's hear it for Teton. Thank you very much. And if you are in Utah or online, check out So Delicious and Booth Brothers Music, who also help put this whole thing together and make sure we all had this kind of fun and we're able to bring this kind of talent into Utah. And last but not least, let's give a big thank to Mindy Pack and Chelsea Stallings for going through all this work, you guys. Really, really good job. We want to thank Shelby Kennedy, and we want to thank Chris Oglesby for daring to come with us.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Gentlemen, I have learned from hanging out with you from this weekend. It's been an honor for me and a pleasure for me, so thank you so much for making that happen.
Yes. And raising the IQ in the room tremendously when the 4 of us are in the room. So
that's
thank
right.
you guys so much.
By the way, so if you like this kind of stuff, if this is working for you, please share it with other people. Let them know about the podcast. If you like, it could help a fellow songwriter, a fellow singer, a fellow artist. Leave a rating and review. It makes us look legit for everybody else that are just maybe thinking about putting their toe in the water. They're going to look and 5-star review would be nice if you want to, but just be authentic and be honest with however you feel about it. Subscribe. It'll come into your podcast player magically every Tuesday, so you don't have to worry about the marketing. We'll just be directly connected.
Mm-hmm. And every Friday as well.
And every Friday with the
And
little
also we have the C.L.I.M.B community. So if you're on Facebook, one or two of you might be on Facebook. We have a Facebook group there, the C.L.I.M.B community. You can. It's a private group, but you just request to be let in. We'll let you in. If you're bad boys and girls, we will
roadhouse you.
We will roadhouse you. So it is a nice place. Play nice in the sandbox with others, but it's a place where you can connect with me and Johnny and get other information. Other people that are willing to help each other out. It's a nice little community and growing. And so definitely check out the C.L.I.M.B community.
Yeah, I mean, any questions you have, it's amazing. What I like about the C.L.I.M.B community is the support that the community gives to other people. Hey, I tried this. I tried that on Facebook. Try this on Twitter, and you can get some real answers in real time. People are there to help out. So we want you to win, right?
That's right.
So how's somebody going to make it happen up here in Utah as a writer?
You can't. Okay, now for the Q&A. I'm just kidding. Shortest episode. What? New record. No. Okay. So you might think just because you live in Utah or Arizona or some other place way outside Nashville, New York, or L.A., you have family, you're not able to move, that kind of thing that you may think is just out of reach and not going to happen. And I want to tell you my story, okay, because hopefully my story will give you some hope. So I'm from Arkansas. So, I write country music, so I'm grew up about 330 miles away from Nashville, from the Mecca, the place I wanted to go to, and didn't start making trips till 1997. But basically, what my story was, I went to college, went to grad school, got out, started working in Little Rock, looked for a job in Nashville, looked for a job in Little Rock. Little Rock's where the job came open, so that's where I went. I worked at Alltel, a telecommunications company. I was in the cubicle ant farm. The khaki jungle.
Prairie dogging it, popping up.
Exactly.
Huh? What? Who just came into the office?
Do I get a bathroom break now? Thank you. Unplug for my phone, go in. It's like a call center thing. So I was doing that after grad school for a couple of years. But I was trying to I had like one co-writer, from my hometown of Batesville, a guy named Tim Meitzen. And, we wrote, through my college years and other places and stuff. We're just trying to make something happen. And he had the same dreams. He wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to be the writer. So we worked together on stuff. And he ended up moving down to Little Rock and just trying to get into what little music scene there was in Little Rock at the time. Maybe it's better now, but there wasn't much then. And so, and this is going to seem like a string of random events, but you looking back, you go, oh, there's kind of a line there. But so Tim ended up moving down to Little Rock. I was in Little Rock, and he'd play out some different places. And one day I was down by the river, district, and saw that there's going to be an open mic, like a songwriters night. I was like, what? Here in Little Rock? Okay, so it was at Stars Guitar. So I signed my buddy Tim up because I don't sing. Actually, I sing, but I sing like a horse. So that was my job, is to hook him up.
We thank you for not singing.
You're welcome.
Was it a van down by the river?
In a van, right, exactly. I was like, by the river. That sounds shady. In the district with the bar and the stuff. Anyway, so signed him up. So Tim went to played some of our songs at the open mic thing. There's some guys there that were starting a publishing company out of Little Rock, but they were, aiming at country music and stuff, and they dug what they heard that night. So we got in with them. I remember they gave me a CD of some songs by a local girl from Conway named Erin Enderlin, who at the time she was at college at MTSU. I was already out of college working, but that's where I first heard her name. And, listened to that stuff, and they told me a little bit about her. They kind of knew of her. Anyway, and wrote with the few people I could find in Little Rock, tried to get into what kind of scene there was there. Well, one day I was looking at the Arkansas Times, like the entertainment part of what was going to be happening in Little Rock that weekend. I saw, Erin Enderlin's going to be playing at this little pizza place. Okay, cool. So I went to go see her. That name rung a bell because those guys at the publishing company had told me about her. So I'm going to go out and see her. She was home over spring break, and because she lives around Little Rock, or did at the time. And so went out and saw her, had the CD that my buddy Tim and I had made, where he was the artist and I co-wrote like 12 of the 13 songs with him, and said hi to Aaron. And,
Is that
and
the
gave
one
her
that
the
went triple plywood?
That one did go triple plywood, 300 units.
Sick, dude.
Love it.
Love that.
And so still got that on my wall. And anyway, so I gave her the CD, and she knew of me a little bit because she'd been to some gig that Tim had played around Little Rock. She's like, oh yeah, I know who you are a little bit. And anyway, she went back to MTSU outside of Nashville, but we had connected. So the next time she was in over summer break, she and I started writing together. And so I was bringing her lyrics and stuff, and we were writing. She went back to MTSU. She came back over Christmas, and I had this lyric for a song called Monday Morning Church that I've been working on for a couple of years. Played it for some, showed the lyric to some different people, and everybody, some people it just never clicked, never found a co-writer. So I'm like, this girl likes really sad country songs. I'm gonna show this to her, and she was like, oh, that's sad. I like you.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
So I want to point something out here. This whole story started because what happened? He went to see this artist sing. He went to see somebody play. He got on the scene a little bit. I think that's important. I see a lot of artists in the community, in the C.L.I.M.B community, when they talk to me, and I'm having trouble because I live here and I live there. I mean, I grew up in a town of 5,000 people. You got to get out. You got to see who's out there playing and find somebody that looks like they might be somebody to connect with, because stuff like this could happen. So he was aware of what she was kind of up to for one reason. He went and saw her, right?
Well, yeah, because... And I won't dig into that more in a second, but, I showed her that lyric for Monday Morning Church. She dug it. She wrote a great melody for it and helped polish out the lyric and everything. Took it back to Nashville with her. I ended up moving to Nashville. This was Christmas break of like 2001. All right, so she ended up going back to school, and I ended up moving to Nashville a couple months after that in March of 2002. But I did the song absolutely zero good after moving. All right, so everything that happened would have happened if I was still in that, cubicle ant farm in Little Rock. But she was working. She was working it. She worked that song because it was one of, the songs that she really felt good about. She started working with a publisher, Jeff Carlton. And it was actually on her and he paid for a demo session. It was on her very first demo session, that song. And he loved it, and he played for Keith Stegall, who had it on hold for some different artists for, a few months. So it was my first hold. I had a hold, and I was like, this is amazing. And then eventually Keith played it for Alan Jackson, and Alan cut it, and it went top 5. And I could have still been in that cubicle in Little Rock and would have had a top 5 hit, and I would have danced and quit. But anyway, that happened, and there's some lessons in that story, okay? And I was doing a lot of other stuff, not just those things. I didn't know what was going to lead to it. But a couple of lessons about that. I was growing where I was planted. That's where I was. I wanted to get to Nashville. I wasn't in the spot to quite get there yet. I got there as quick as I could. But I plugged in. I didn't wait and only look at Nashville. I was like, okay, what kind of music scene is there where I am? And I'm sure just from how many people are here, there's more music scene here than there was in Little Rock at the time, just based on you guys here. And so I leveraged what connections I had to what opportunities were there, meeting the few writers that I could find, the few artists I could find, keeping my antenna up. That's how I found out about Aaron in the first place, was because I signed my buddy up to go play the open mic night because I don't even play. So I made him do it. Go, singer boy, do your thing. Play our songs, right? Don't mess up the words. And, some people liked it, and that started the snowball. That's why I ever heard about Aaron. Otherwise, it would have just been, there's some name playing at a pizza shop and whatever, And then she'd heard about me a little bit because Tim had played somewhere else, and she'd heard some of those songs. Say, oh, yeah, I know, a little bit who you are. And made the connection with someone that was from that area. So that's one thing to think about, too. If you're out of town, who from your area, lives in one of those music centers or has made something happen, you can play that hometown card. I remember after I moved to Nashville, there's a guy named Lance Carpenter that somehow got a hold of me, and he played the Arkansas and the Razorback card. And it was like, hey, I'm from Arkansas, and I'm moving here, and, I'd just love to take you out for, pay for your breakfast or something. And usually I don't have time to do that, but there was a mix of, the timing was right. I had some time then. And, he played the Arkansas, the home state card on me because I have a soft spot for that. And so we had coffee, and he just played it well. So we made a connection, and he was really good at that. And he was making trips, and he wasn't moving yet. He was just trying to make trips, but he leveraged some home state, connection. Although I'd never heard of him before, he didn't have anything going on. He reached out to me, and he was doing that to other people too. And it worked for him because he's written a #1 for Kelsey Ballerini, her first "Love Me Like You Mean It." So he was leveraging connections, helped him get a soft landing into Nashville. And so that's one thing you want to think about wherever you are. Okay, is there anyone from this area that has made it, that may be coming back? There's another guy that the music minister at my church growing up at First Baptist, his son wrote An Affair of the Heart for Rick Springfield.
Really?
And had a record deal on Chrysalis, I think, for a while, or with some label, a guy named Danny Tate. And, it had some cuts. It was in Nashville some. He ended up doing like a bunch of bumper music for Entertainment Tonight or whatever. And his dad was a minister of music at our church. So you'd see him in every once in a while. So I ended up leveraging that. And, he's like, oh, yeah, I remember you, because he'd see me out in the congregation because I'm tall. And so, I was able to leverage that just to play some songs and make a connection and get some feedback on it and just trying to reach out to whatever I could, growing where I was planted. And, so you're doing a lot of stuff. It's like basically right now. And I mean, WRITE, now. Don't wait till you're like, oh, one day when I can move to Nashville or New York or LA or whatever, then I'm really going to start getting after it. Because the stuff that has been my biggest success, I laid the groundwork for that in Little Rock, Arkansas. Only making some trips to Nashville every now and again. And it wasn't those trips that directly led to that. So that's a big lesson there, is don't wait for like, I'm going to really get serious when I can get there. Because you're wasting all this time in the meantime. And so that's, is anyone from here in the business? Or there, I know there's a local NSAI chapter that Chelsea runs. And maybe in your area, climbers that are listening now, is there some sort of regional workshop where you can meet other people that, heck, they may move there. Even if you can't ever move to one of those places because of your family situation or whatever, now you got people there because you made a connection. And if your writing is up to snuff and you got the goods and they move there, they might be working your songs. That's kind of how it was with me and Erin. Like, I wasn't there yet, but she took a song and she was working it from her end for her benefit, not doing it for my, to do me a solid. It's because it was one of her best songs. She was doing it for herself, but good things came my way too.
And crushed it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to do the work, right? Like you've got to do. You can't. I see too many artists hanging up on focusing on what they don't have, and that's a recipe for disaster in any part of your life, right? If we keep thinking about what we don't have, then we're not really focusing on what we do have and what we can take advantage of. You've got time. You've got social media. There's an NSAI chapter in your town, maybe. There's other writers in your town. There's local artists in your town. There's I've talked to people who are like, I live in New York City and I'm just having a hard time finding a drummer. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, you can't swing a dead cat around town like a 5,000 population of 5,000 town and not hit 10 drummers. You know what I mean? I went through a bunch of them coming up and trying to do that, but we found the group, we got together, and we worked and we worked and we worked and we rehearsed and we rehearsed and we were interested in being better. We were interested in pursuing excellence. If you just focus on that and mind your marketing and mind your getting out and making the connections, the stuff will come. The stuff will come your way. I don't know how to explain it, but it happens. Mountains will move, literally, and all that work will pay off, but you can't be looking for the payback, right? You can't be looking for the reciprocity. You can't be looking for the immediate altruism. A job is immediate altruism. You go to work, you give them 40 hours of your life, which is the most precious commodity that you have to give, and then give you a paycheck immediately in return. This artist stuff, it takes a while. You got to get good. And everybody's got to get better. And when we were doing it from Delavan, we rehearsed all the time, kept trying to get better and better. I told this story in my breakout classes, but just trying to get in that one club in Milwaukee. That was our goal, and that turned into just rocket launched us up into this whole killer music scene in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And then that made us believe, like, woo, we could be professional and do this because we went on tour. I was like, now I'm a real artist, right? Because you have that moment. But that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been pounding the door down of that club trying to get in. It wouldn't have happened if we just didn't believe we could be better and wanted to continue to work at it. So work at your writing, work at at your singing.
Yeah. Opportunity is attracted to activity.
Yes.
So it's like if you and your songs never leave your mama's, basement, you're not going to get that publisher meeting. And obviously the people sitting here, you're doing something, you're getting out, right? But another thing that was important for me was like Erin was, so this is the context of Monday Morning Church, which was kind of my big break. Erin was like ahead of me. She was younger than me. She was ahead of me. She didn't have any cuts yet, but she was in the Nashville area and she was starting to make some, connections to publishers and stuff. So that, in that sense, she was ahead of me. But also, like if I'd known that Monday morning church was like a hit lyric. I didn't know that. I thought it was one of my cool ones. That's why I was shopping it around. But I didn't know. If I'd known that, I might have been tempted to go, okay, I'm hanging on to this till I get to Nashville, and I'm going to find Steve Seskin, or I'm going to find one of these, great hit writers, and I'm going to hang on to this, and I'm going to pounce on them with it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to show it to this girl who's, still in college and hadn't had any
just
cuts
on a pizza
yet.
shop. Yeah.
No, this is a hit lyric. Well, for one thing, thankfully, I didn't know that, so I wasn't tempted for that. But the lesson is don't neglect your peer group, right? Because Erin was a hit songwriter. She just hadn't had the hit yet. Turned out she was supposed to have that with me, right? And she didn't neglect me either. I mean, true, she probably just wrote with me because when she was home over summer break, there was no one else to write with. But hey, there was something. That made me a category of one.
And you showed up.
And I showed the heck up. So in a way that you probably worked to my advantage. I might not have ever written with her if I'd been in Nashville with everyone else, but she came home to Arkansas, and I was a category of one. Like, who else are you going to write with? I'm the only game in town, right? So I guess in the sense that worked. I had her undivided attention for like a summer. But don't neglect your peer group. Don't neglect the people that are sitting with you. I'm like the people that are here at the C.L.I.M.B conference. This is your peer group. Maybe you're all maybe under the radar. I don't know where everyone is career wise, but you don't neglect this. If you have those great song ideas, don't be scared to share those with people and to collaborate with each other because you're waiting for the big score. Because you may just be the hit artist, you may just be the hit writer, and you just haven't happened yet, but you're supposed to happen together. And so that's a big thing. Like, bring your best to every co-write, to every opportunity, to every show. Because one thing, when you keep bumping up against your best gets better. And that's a big thing. Your best work brings your best opportunities. If I just said, well, I'm just going to bring my B drawer stuff to Erin, and I'm going to hang on to this A stuff over here till I can get to Nashville and people that have cuts and have publishing deals, that song wouldn't have happened. Mm-hmm. You take it to a different writer, it takes a different path, and who knows what would have happened. It probably wouldn't have been that. It probably wouldn't have been as good. And so I was bringing my best to the best opportunities I had, and that led to something. So bring your best. Don't neglect your peer group where you are. I think it's a big, important lesson.
Yeah, don't worry about failure. It works in your favor. If you fail, you learn. That first tour that we went on, we were gone for a better part of a year. We came back, and I think I did the math one time. I think we made the equivalent. We grossed the equivalent of like maybe $350,000 in that band over the course of that year, and the tour cost $358,000. Yeah, all of a sudden I would ride our truck like $8,000, and I'm like, what? But what I learned the next time we did it, when the Allman Brothers brought us down to Florida, I knew how to manage that money. I knew where the potholes were. I wasn't getting overrun by the booking agent because I learned. He's like, how about 15%? I'm like, we'll do it for 10. He's like, okay. That was the difference between paying our rent every month and not paying our rent. That one conversation, but that conversation happened because I got beat up before, because I failed before, and I learned how to bow up and do it in a professional way and make it work, I'll save you the suspense. You're going to screw up. I think a lot of people don't make moves because they're afraid of failing. They're afraid of being judged. But that's where you find out where the bodies are buried, And from a remote place, I think that's a big part of what keeps people remote. And if you're out there and you're on the scene, you're going to inevitably run into what I call your class, your people that are at your level, your peer group, as Brent puts it. And then start getting in there. Start getting in there, start writing, start finding art. If you're a songwriter that's looking for cuts, start finding some local artists around here and try to write with them. Get in with them. Do something for them. Send them flowers. Go, hey, I'll paint your fence, man, if you'll write a song with me. What can you do for that person to make that relationship happen? And see how you can get in there and get a couple cuts just locally and get in that game a little bit. And then you'll be surprised. People start coming out of the woodwork. And because you start to become a player locally, you start to become a big fish in like a small pond, And I had a couple conversations personally with some artists in one-on-ones here this weekend about, find the smallest club that you can get away with in your local town and market the fire out of it until people are standing outside and they can't get inside. That's how Jewel got signed, out of a coffee shop. With the DJ just kept saying, I can't believe there's so many people that can't get in this coffee shop to hear this girl sing. What's going on in there? The record labels heard about it, came down, showed up, she got a deal. You know, it's about creating that perception, but if you can't do it in your local town, then you really can't do it anywhere else. That's not going to change, you know. So you can make it happen and get all your chops down and your networking and your and some of that railroad track that you just need to have in place so that you're prepared to take advantage of an opportunity when it comes along. I mean, Brent and I talk about this all the time. I'm a big proponent of we make our own luck. The harder I work, the luckier I get, you know. There it is. And so I'm not thinking about what I don't have. I'm thinking about what's my next step right now? What's my next step? What can I do? How can I add value to my community? How can I take my artists to another level? What's a new creative way we can come up with this? And that kind of energy breeds attraction. And we get cooler deals, and we get to do stuff like this. You know, I've had a couple of people come up, hey, man, I need to talk to you later. I might have something for you. And I'm like, wow, awesome. What an honor, you know. But the same attitude is going to work in your town of 450 people, you know, as it is going to work in Nashville or New York or L.A. So my suggestion is focus on becoming the coolest freaking thing that's happening in your town. And you be the most famous person in that town. And then the next steps that are starting to happen, you're going to be prepared for when it's time to move up, when it's time to move on. If we hadn't done all that rehearsing, if we hadn't done that tour, we wouldn't have been prepared for the opportunity from the Allman Brothers. If we hadn't done all that rehearsing just in Mike Ansovic's basement, we wouldn't have been prepared to go to Minneapolis. We wouldn't have blown that band away, that one moment. One set, 30-minute set, and they're like, you guys are great, and we're about to change your life. And I'm like, I'm down for that.
Yeah, but, and on the writer side, if I hadn't woodshed a lyricist, so I don't write melody, I had like one main co-writer, my buddy Tim. I had way more lyrics than I knew he was ever going to put melodies to. Yep. But I was woodshedding. And if I hadn't put in those hours, chopped that wood, built those muscles, that when that line came, empty as a Monday morning church, I wouldn't have been prepared to catch it and do something with it. Yeah. You know, I was building that muscle, doing those reps. So then when preparation met opportunity, met that idea, I was more prepared to do something with it than like, oh, you know, I got one guy and I'll just write when he's ready to write, or, you know, when I find a co-writer. No, I had like a binder full of lyrics why? Because I'm a writer. I can't wait on the availability of co-writers. I'm going out to try and find them, but my work is not dependent upon that. Yeah. You know, and so I was preparing that. And I think one thing that's important to a mindset shift based on your situation is think, what does this make possible? Right? Like that, yeah. Not what does it make impossible, but what does this make possible? Okay, so I'm in Little Rock, you know, and I want to write, you know, with like with Erin or something. Well, it's possible maybe I couldn't have gotten with her because, you know, in Nashville, because I never would have met her or whatever. But I was, like I said, I was the only game in town probably, you know, for her when she was back home. What does that make possible? Well, I got more attention from someone that's, you know, going and working it in Nashville. You know, just trying to think about your situation. What does it make possible? Maybe here, you know, I have a buddy that we both know that he's making a living in Louisiana, singing and songwriting and playing gigs, right? And he wants to move to Nashville, and he's going to, but he's like, part of what's keeping me here is I make a living here. And it's really hard to make a living just playing gigs in Nashville, like at the bars and stuff, because there's so much competition. You know, supply and demand drives prices down. He's like, I'm making a living in Louisiana gigging. And so maybe that's something that makes possible, because that's a lot harder in Nashville just to go out and play the local bar and make a living doing that. So maybe what it makes possible for you is I can do this full time, or maybe I'm in an area with a lower cost of living than like a Nashville or New York for sure, or LA. And so now I can make a living doing music, because I don't have to earn as much as if I go to Nashville. Like I can stay here and maybe I can do music full time, so therefore I can just devote so much more time to it and iterate and learn and progress that much faster than if I move to a major music city or to just another bigger area, and then I got a day job, and then I'm down to nights and weekends and stuff. If you're here, just think, what does this make possible? Mm-hmm. And just be open-minded to that, and think with a mindset of possibility, not of impossibility. I think it's a big thing.
That's it. There you go. High five. So now we want to go and sort of open up the floor, I think, to...
one thing real quick. In today's market, because I came to Nashville 2002. Things are very different now. So as a songwriter, what would I do if I were to attack it today from Arkansas, from Utah, from Missouri, or whatever?
Oh, right.
You can invest in education, and there's a lot of free education. The C.L.I.M.B podcast is one. Songwriting Pro, my website, Daredevil Production, the blog there. There's a lot of free stuff out there. Invest. Obviously, you guys that are here, you invested in a conference, so you get to come, you get to meet, Chris Oglesby and Shelby Kennedy, and you get to meet some pros, and you get to meet your peer group, and you're investing in education, getting the real deal.
Some of them drove long distances and invested too to be here.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's opportunity. Is there something coming within driving distance? And online, my goodness, there's so many opportunities online that I didn't have, right? So there are like Songwriting Pro, we do a Play for a Publisher event. I mean, Chris has been a guest on it a couple times before, and it's a chance I've had people from Scotland, from Canada, from Utah, from other places come in and be one of the guests and get a chance to play online from anywhere in the world with a real legit music publisher and get FaceTime, because it's like video conference with them. Other places have those type of opportunities from where you are. That was not available to me. I was still sending in my cassette tape to NSAI to get feedback on it, wait 6 weeks for it to come back. You have so many more opportunities now. Also, co-writers. People are. You don't have to write just with the people in your area. Yes.
On the online thing, for the artist part too, just social media. You learned a lot about how to do social media the right way. You can do that from anywhere. A lot of our interns at Daredevil, after we teach them how to do what we want them to do and how we want them to do it, I don't mind if they work remotely. They don't have to be in the office to do it. Some of them come in because they just love to hang, but some of them do it from their dorm rooms or from their apartments or whatever. It can be done anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and co-writing. I mean, especially other people that are from out of a major music center, you can write online. Skype writing, Zoom, so many other ways that you can connect with people. You may connect with potential co-writers in a place like the C.L.I.M.B community on Facebook or Songwriting Pro on Facebook, and or some of these online workshops or live workshops, conferences, and that sort of thing. You meet these people, we're from different areas, but the world is so much more open to that than they ever used to be. Mm-hmm. Just because the possibilities there, especially if there's someone else that's also living outside of a major music center, they're going to be open to that because they're trying to connect. So you're not limited to just the people within your geographic area.
That's right.
And there are places to go and meet those people. The cocktail party you talk about. It's there. You can meet those like-minded people with similar goals, mm-hmm. and maybe one of them is in a major music city, or maybe they move there, or they know people. It's just expanding your network. And if you do great work, it's going to open up more opportunities. They don't care where you're from. So, that's pretty much what. Do you want to go ahead and open up to Q&A?
So Brent's, by the way, has got a free book, Think Like a Pro Songwriter. If you want to get connected with him on Songwriting Pro, go to giftfrombrent.com, giftfrombrent.com. It's a free download. Just tell him where to send it. And with me, I've got a killer little, it's a graphic PDF of the 21 biggest indie artist marketing mistakes. And you can get that at giftfromjohnny.com, JOHNNY, giftfromjohnny.com. Download that, and then you'll regularly be in our loop here, and we'll keep you in touch with what we got going on, and all kinds of killer information that way. So we want to do a little live Q&A on the next what?
We're going to take 3 questions.
Oh, 3 questions.
3 questions.
And please come up to the mic and ask your questions.
So who's got a question?
All right, who's the first contestant?
Who's the first victim? Kai.
Yes, Kai, come on up.
Speak loudly into the moose.
Okay. Hello. This isn't really about being out of state, so I realize it's not really about this podcast.
You don't sound like you're from Utah. So
No. I'm living in LA from Sydney, Australia. Anyway, as a songwriter and a starting songwriter, a lot of people just say start writing every day and just writing all the time. But I'm feeling like I should be sorry, the question is, should I be doing that, or should I be spending more time on individual songs and getting them as good as I can, or should I just get stuff out so I can get better?
Man, I think ultimately quality is king, right? I mean, ultimately you got to get the quality there. It doesn't matter how many songs you write if they're all just B level. You got to get to the AA plus level, right? Sometimes in the beginning, and there's no fast rule on this, right? There's no one answer for this. But in the beginning, I think quantity somewhat is at least queen, right? Going through and just doing the work and just applying backside to chair again and again and again, building that discipline of I write and I'm not, because the danger of going, I'm going to polish one song, is that you kind of get analysis paralysis. You hang on to that one song and it's never done, and you never move forward. And so as you're you're not just writing, but you're also educating yourself. You know, you're listening to the C.L.I.M.B, you're reading blogs, and you're doing things to learn and grow. And so as you iterate, as you write more and more songs, you're applying those things to the next songs, sometimes more easily than going back to those first songs and applying that to your older songs. It's like your answers are ahead of you, so you can apply it to the new ones. So at the beginning, so much of it is just about learning structure and learning kind of the basics. And now if there's something in there that is, you're like, okay, there's really something special here. Like I really, because not all your songs are going to be, none of mine are, none of anybody's are all great, right? And so kind of learning to go, that one's okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. But this has something special to it. I'm going to pull it out in 6 months or something after I've grown some more and take another look at it. So there's no one answer to that. But
I've got
in general,
something to add to that.
Yes, please.
So two things. Number one is just remind you that John and Paul from the Beatles have been quoted several times as saying, we got together and started writing songs and the first 50 were rubbish, and then they started figuring out how to work with each other. The second thing is, and this I tell to my artists to help them sort of let go of some of their own maybe B songs. I think Billy Joel has the best way of putting it. He says, I love all my songs equally. They're like my children. I love them all, but some of them grow up to be doctors and lawyers, and some of them grow up to be delinquents.
You can love them all.
You can love them all, but just know what they are.
and you don't bring them all out to the same functions.
That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, hope that helps. I mean, it's, I think of the story of the basketball. I think Seth Godin talked about this on a podcast or something. He's like, okay, so, basketball's been around for over 100 years, right? And so it's at the beginning it was more like this leather medicine ball kind of thing, and now we have this perfect bouncy, grippy, perfect basketball for doing basketball things, right? Okay. Now, because it got out into the market, there were iterations. People used it. They got feedback. They kept improving. Until finally we got this beautiful little basketball, right? So if the guys that invented the basketball had been, we're going to keep this in the lab and we're just going to keep improving it until 100 years from now, we're going to come out with the basketball.
We wouldn't have basketball.
For one thing, there'd be no NBA, there'd be no college hoops, there wouldn't be any of that stuff, and it would be a terrible basketball because it wouldn't have gotten into the real world and gotten bounced around it and had those iterations. And so part of that's with your songwriting. I'm going to write songs, I'm going to get them out, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to get them kicked around. I'm going to apply that to my next songs, and I'm going to iterate, and I'm going to just, that way it's not just all held back and no one's ever seen it. Yeah, I've never had anyone dislike one of my songs. Right. That means no one ever heard it, because it happens. There's songs on the radio that I know we all hate, right? There's some song on the radio that's a hit that you hate. Okay, that stuff's going to happen. So we just need to get over it and realize sometimes it just may not be for certain people. That's right. A very important thing to go, maybe that's not for you. And that's okay. Some people aren't going to like some of your songs. Just, you got to keep trucking. And so, I wouldn't sit on any one song too awful long. You just got to keep some forward momentum. If there's something like you think there's a diamond in there, hang on to it. Don't forget about it. Keep it in a separate stack so you can revisit it. But most of them aren't going to be that, because most of them aren't that way for anybody.
Thanks, Kai.
Yeah,
thank you.
Kai.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else got a question? There we go.
Uh-oh. She warned us earlier. Don't give that woman a microphone. Okay.
Question. Yes. What are do you have specific strategies for busting out of analysis paralysis? Like, are there things you do, or are you so used to not being stuck in that you're just like, stop it, and you're fine?
Like, how do I
Yeah, how do you
pick an
bust out of it?
angle. I mean, sometimes it's, like free writing, where, it's the tyranny of the blank page. Like, you just look at this page and you go, okay, I'm going to write a lyric. So here's my first line, and it's going to be the line.
Nothing.
And, that's a lot of pressure, And so I usually work title first. I'll come up with the title. Then I'm trying to figure it out, like the song title challenge, try to figure out the best angle and stuff. And so sometimes it's just free writing on that. And just realizing everything's subject to change, and you're free writing, so you're not worried about trying to write the line, trying to make it meter, trying to make it rhyme, I'm just discovering it. And so I'm getting words down. And so I'm writing, even though I call it pre-writing. There's pre-writing, writing, and rewriting. And they're all important. So I'd like to do more pre-writing. Sometimes it's getting together with a co-writer. And so there's that thing if we're in the room. So eventually we want to get to it. But having someone to bounce that off of, and someone to go that way. Was it by yourself? You go, that's good, and with someone else in the room, you go, that's good. But you can get that feedback and bounce off each other. So I don't know if that answers your question, but part of it is setting down that time to write and just saying I'm going to do this. But you want to be patient, right? You don't want to jump the gun too much. Used to be I'd jump right first blush idea, I'd jump right into it, and so now I do more analysis than I've probably ever done on it. And part of just doing it until you feel like something's right, until you feel like, oh, that's compelling. I want to go into that. But free writing can help you with that, to discover kind of what your idea is about.
Have you ever read the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron?
No.
I recommend everybody get that book.
Okay.
Buy that book and buy a nice hardcover blank page journal, because you're going to do a lot of writing. It's like a 12-week or 16-week program or something, and you got to commit to a half-hour writing a day, but it'll teach you a lot of that stuff. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool for writers.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
And it's funny, sometimes the analysis paralysis, like you'll be writing most of the day with somebody, and you got like a verse in the course, and you spent like 4 hours on it, you got 30 minutes left. And it's funny how that last verse will pop out in 30 minutes, because you put yourself you have a time limit.
Yeah.
And just like, okay, no more playing around. And a lot of times it's good. Like, why did it take us so long to get that first verse in that first course? Because I had all day to do it. Now I don't have all day anymore. So sometimes it may be putting that constraint on yourself. Like, I don't have unlimited time. And so I'm going to say, I got 30 minutes. What am I going to get done in 30 minutes? Or I'm going to write this song, and a draft of it in 10, 20 minutes, just to get something out. Now I got something I can work with. And I may end up replacing the whole thing. But part of it's just getting that pen moving.
There you go.
Hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got one more. Who's got a question? Anybody? We can just take two if we want.
Bueller.
Everybody's afraid to be on the podcast and be live. Bueller. All right. Well, then we'll take this time to say, once again, thank you to the sponsors, Rode Microphones. Give them a big round of applause. I know a lot of you benefited directly from that amazing sponsor. Killer Australian Mic Company did the background recording tours, on the background vocal tours for Kelly Clarkson, Justin Timberlake, and Rihanna. Teton Guitars, has given away this beautiful, gorgeous guitar that somebody is going to get here shortly. So give them a round of applause. Chelsea tells me these guitars are amazing. I can't wait. I want to play it. Whoever wins it, I just want to play it for a second. Is that cool? And then if you're in Utah, we want to tell you about So Delicious and Booth Brothers Music, who helped. And of course, once again, Mindy Pack and Chelsea Stallings for putting this together. You guys did a lot of work.
Thank you so much.
And our co-host, Chris Oglesby from BMG. Thank you, Chris. It's a big deal that you came out here and took the time. You're a very busy man. And Shelby Kennedy, the VP of TuneCore, which is massive digital distribution. Shelby, I learned a lot. I went and wanted to see Shelby talk, but I want to see what he had to say. But listen, guys, this podcast exists because we want you to win, so keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top. Thank you, guys.